A huge moo to the herd, and welcome to episode 11 of our Gregicality Skyblock playthrough. So, looking at the previous episode, I realised the end was missing. So in the end, I built the blast furnace. When I left you, I said I was going to go off and make up the rest of the copper nickel coils. I did, and I was obviously talking away, but that bit for some reason didn't record. So, good news everyone, we have a blast furnace. So what I've done is I've connected it up to our feed using the 4X cables. I've got the two energy input hatches, one here and one in the middle. We have our input bus and output bus and the blast furnace itself. So in the input bus, I have put some aluminium dust, which I've been making up via my pseudo ore processing area. And the output bus, we have our first aluminium ingot. Now, I will say that it didn't go quite to plan, because if I click on this, you'll notice that the work is paused. So if I take my hammer and unpause the work, you think, great, it should all just work nicely. No, it doesn't have enough power. As you can see, if I just look at one of the energy input hatches, we're producing power at a consistent rate, but it's just not enough to be able to get the EBF to run. So this will run eventually, as long as I don't use any other machines, etc. So we're going to need to fix that. Now, someone put in my comments a few videos back about setting up battery buffers, and when I looked at it, I didn't think I could do it because the recipes I was looking at for electrolyzing stuff, etc., all seem to require MV tier. But obviously this makes you look a bit closer. So I had a look, and if I look at batteries, I go to the sodium battery. It says you need sodium dust with a small battery hole. Small gives you a small sodium battery. Now, sodium dust, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but if I were to electrolyze, I don't know, say salt, salt with the chemical symbol sodium chloride or NaCl, that would give me sodium and chlorine. So I can make the batteries. So that's the first thing I want to do on this, is I want to make a battery buffer and stick some batteries in it, because I hope that if we do it, then we'll be able to at least get the EBF running a little bit more consistently, rather than, taking 20 minutes per ingot. I've still got enough charcoal at the moment. I have had this running for some time, but we are going to need to start thinking about a different way of powering it, because charcoal just isn't feasible at the moment. I'd have to build a load more of the coke ovens. I'd have to get a bigger tree farm in place to get things running in parallel. It just doesn't feel right to me. So let's do the first thing, which is to get our battery buffer. Now, to make a battery, I need a canning machine. So first thing we're going to need to make is a canning machine. So what's a canning machine require? That requires a pump, some tin cables, some circuits, LV machine holes, and glass. Now, I have made up most of the stuff, I think. In fact, I've made up all of the stuff. So that's our first machine made of this one. It's a nice canning machine. And I just need something to step on. I'll get some of my trusty factory blocks. So pop you there. And we'll just pop our canning machine here. Right, so that's my canning machine all powered up. Right, now we can tick the canning machine off. We're now going to need small battery holes. Now these require a couple of battery alloy plates and some tin cable. Now, battery alloy plates, unsurprisingly, are battery alloy ingots, which are an alloy of lead and antimony. Now, I have made up some antimony. You need 2 of those. And over here, I have some lead. So I'm going to need 8 of these, I think. And what we'll do is we'll take that down to our alloy smelter. One thing I have done over here is a little bit of automation. Ooh, I'm going to need to fill you up first. That annoying noise you can hear in the background is a mechanical user. And what that's doing is not a great deal, actually. It's got some redstone in there. I have moved my hopper and chest, so that's putting granite in. And I have some fluid ducts going into a stone barrel, so that's converting the granite into lava, which is going into the stone barrel. And once I get a full barrel, what will happen is the mechanical user will right-click this with a piece of redstone and produce a netherrack. And I've just got a flattened item doohickey, whose name I can't remember, and that just puts it in there. So it's just passive. One thing is, these have to be hardened. I used normal fluid ducts on the first run, and it all seemed to work fine. And then I went away and came back and found a load of lava everywhere because the ducts had just melted. So make sure you get the hardened ones. They are Invar, which we've been making for the previous stuff, and lead plates. Really easy to make, and it stops lava leakage everywhere. So 8 pieces of lead, 2 pieces of antimony, and that should give me 10 pieces of battery alloy ingots. And once we've got those, my 4x tin cable, we should be able to start making the plates up, and then we'll be able to make the battery holes, which will hopefully go some way to alleviating this. I'm just guessing at the moment. I hope it will work. It should, in theory, work. Excuse me. A bit of a cough at the moment, which is a bit frustrating. It's wintry weather, what to expect. So, go into my bending machine, and we're going to just stick all of these through. What else do I need for my battery holes? Some tin cable, at least 4 of those. What tin cable do I have? I have 8, so 2, 3, 4. Right, so once those are made up, the other thing I'm going to need to make is the low voltage battery buffer. Now I've selected the 4 slot one because at the moment all my cables are rated for 4 amps. So if I put like the 16 on there, it would just cause a lovely burn up of cables and, you know, fires everywhere and things like that, which we're not really after right now. But I am going to need some 4x tin wire. So that's what, 16 tin wire. So that's 8 pieces of tin. So we can start doing is run that through our cable mill. 1, 2, 3. So I said 8, didn't I? Wire mill, that's the one. And that should give me the 16. And that's getting close to finishing. Now my plan, hopefully, is to basically have it in here. So where this junction is, so this block here, we'll take out the cabling and we'll have the feed into the top of it, and then the output through here. And what should happen is, if nothing's happening, it should charge up the 4 batteries, which should give me enough power just to run this. Again, I have no idea if that's going to work or not, but we'll give it a shot. So that should give me the 2x. This should give me the 4x. It does indeed. And that should be those done. It is. Right, so we'll make up our battery holes first. So we need 8 of these and 4 of these. It gives me my battery holes. Now, what I have done for the sodium, excuse me, is I've run salt through the system. I then ran the impure salt through the electrolyzer to get salt, and it also gave me some borax as an output. And then I took the salt and run it through my electrolyzer to get sodium dust. So what we should be able to do is go to our canning machine, pop in the battery holes, pop in the sodium, and we will get, if I've done this right, I have 4 small sodium batteries. Not the best in the world, but you know what? It's got to be better than what I've got at the moment. So let's pop that away. Right, this thing, low voltage battery buffer. Can I make one? Yes, I can. Great. Right, so let's take my wrench and take out this. Oh, it fell. And pop that in. And what I want to make sure I do is that the output is there. That should be it. Now, if I pop in my 4 batteries, are they going to start charging? They are indeed charging. And the big question is, will they actually... is the output the right way? Let's just grab my wrench. Yes, it is. Good. So I'll pop that in. Now, because I've got 4 turbines, it will charge all those batteries simultaneously. If I had one, it would do one after the other. So we're going to just leave that to charge for a while. I'm just going to go and retrieve that piece of tin before I forget. Right, the other thing is our long-term power situation. So using charcoal, not very efficient. Well, I suppose it's actually relatively efficient as long as I'm willing to put the time in. So I can increase it by increasing the amount of coke ovens I've got, look at other stuff, etc. But I think what I'd like to do is look at a different fuel source. So you may notice on all the walking and backwards and forwards, I have a field of carrots. I like carrots. Carrots taste nice. And there was a debate on the Discord about eating carrots with the skin off or peeled. I'd just like to offer my my input, and that's, you can't get a better taste than raw carrot, no peeling, etc. Just the way it is. Just wash it to make sure that any dirt's off. But apart from that, you get a lovely taste. But back to the reason we want carrots. If I go and look at carrot, one thing we can do with carrots is we can stick them into a centrifuge, and the centrifuge will give us methane. If we look at what we can use methane for, we can use methane in a gas turbine. So my thinking is I want to get a better supply of carrots than this, because whilst this works, you know, they're not all fully grown yet, but whilst it works, it does the job pretty well. But I want something a bit more automated. That's the whole reason I play these packs, is not to do stuff manually, it's to, you know, automate. So what I'm going to do is I've made up the components for a greenhouse, which is basically 3 pieces of glass, an LV machine hole, a couple of robot arms, some chips, and a tin cable. So if I get this, what we can do with the greenhouse, if I can get it to, yeah, perfect, connect up, is if I look at my carrot again, greenhouse, we can add some water on a carrot, and that carrot won't be used, and we'll get a carrot every 200 seconds. So that's every 3 and a bit minutes we'll get a single carrot. Pretty slow. The other option we can do is some water, some organic fertilizer dust, a carrot, and we get 3 carrots every, what's that, 2 and a bit minutes, 2.5 minutes. So it's faster, and I get 3 carrots. So that's definitely the way I want to be going. But we're going to need some organic fertilizer. So how do we get the organic fertilizer? Well, first we'll just add it to our list. Organic fertilizer is actually relatively simple. It's calcium dust and phosphate dust with oxygen and hydrogen. Okay, it's an LV recipe as well. So it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Calcium and phosphate, if I look at the recipe for phosphate, the best thing to do to get phosphate dust is if I electrolyze phosphor, which is calcium, and gives us both the calcium and the phosphate. So you'll notice I have piles of impure piles of phosphor dust. What I'm going to do is I'm going to empty out all of this stuff, all the salt, because we'll probably need that for later. And borax, I have no idea what I'll need that for, but I'm pretty sure, based on this pack, that borax will be useful at some point. Is there anything else I need to put away? Put those bottles away from that witch. Right, so I'm just going to stick my impure piles of phosphor dust through the centrifuge. Meanwhile, let's check our battery pack. We've got all our batteries fully charged, and you notice, we're keeping them relatively charged now. So that's perfect for us. And the one thing we'll do is we're going to switch this on and see what happens. I did fear that this would not work, but strange. I wonder if it's the distance. Yeah, it is draining the power on all 4 of them, so you would expect that that should be enough. Okay, well, I'd hoped that that would work, but clearly not, so there must be a reason for it. I've got my aluminium, so that's a quest complete up here. Obviously, we're going to need a lot more aluminium. Yeah, so if you can give some suggestions as to how we can make this work better, or at all, please feel free to drop a comment in the comments section below. Meanwhile, I will just sit here scratching my head for a bit. But I do have battery buffers in now, so yeah, that's pretty good. I'm pretty sure we'll probably need a different type of cable in here or something that can actually support it. I'm pretty sure that the input hatches are 2 amps. This is 4 amps worth of cable, so it should have enough current going through it. But nah, I honestly don't know. But anyway, phosphor dust. We'll take our phosphor dust and we'll stick it in our electrolyzer, and we'll let that do its job very slowly. Now once that's done, the other thing we'll need is hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen. That's H and O, or H2O, or water. Yes, we can electrolyze water to get hydrogen and oxygen. Again, a very slow process, but we will be able to get our organic, what's it called? Organic fertilizer dust. And once we've got the organic fertilizer dust, we should be in a position to start making some carrots up. And what I'm going to do is go grab some buckets that I've probably left in one of the coal boilers. I have indeed. And start filling my greenhouse up with water. And what I will do is we'll let the phosphor go through. And once that has been done, we'll come back and we'll look at how we're electrolyzing the water to get our hydrogen and oxygen. And then we'll make up some organic fertilizer dust. And we'll look at seeing if we can get our first carrots done. And then once we're done with that, hopefully we'll have at least the start of a process for getting a better power source. However, I suspect that the true way to get around this is to just go MV power, and that's something we might do. Instead of going for the LV gas turbines, we might just go for the MV gas turbine and see how we get on with that. But yeah, so we'll pause here. And then once we're done with the electrolyzing and we've got the hydrogen and so forth, we'll come back and we'll see about making our organic fertilizer dust. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Excuse me. And we have some hydrogen, we have some oxygen. We have our chemical reactor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my calcium in, I'm going to put my phosphate in, And then I'm going to get my tank and we'll take the hydrogen first. And that can go into that tank there. And we'll take our oxygen. And it can go into there. And this should now go off and make our organic fertilizer dust. There we go. We've got our first batch of 10 organic fertilizer dust. So all I need now is a carrot. I have a carrot. And if we go into our greenhouse, we pop our carrot in. We pop our fertilizer dust. I should have put the fertilizer dust in first rather than the carrot. So that was a mistake. But that's going to go off and produce more carrots. It's going to produce 1 carrot initially because it didn't use the fertilizer dust. And then it will produce 3 once that's done. So that's a way we can just have carrots running as long as we get lots of organic fertilizer dust, which is relatively simple. All we need is more phosphor, and I have an abundance of phosphor. Well, I think that's finished now. Yep. So I'm just going to put the phosphor into the electrolyzer and let that do its thing. So we just use the electrolyzer to split the phosphor into calcium and phosphate, and the water will be split into hydrogen and oxygen. So we'll have plenty of that stuff, and we can make up our organic stuff, and that will give us carrots. And the last thing we need to do with our carrots is, if I just grab a stack of carrots, go over to our centrifuge, let's take the phosphate dust off because I can use that later. I put all my carrots into the centrifuge, and what we should be able to do is, as each of these is done, we'll get methane. And the methane we can start using for our gas turbines. So we've got some things to figure out. First of all, this thing. I mean, it's just not working. You know, even with the battery buffer in there, it just can't produce the power. So I don't know if it's the length of the cable because of the loss. You know, it's 1 loss per block, or we're just not outputting enough power for it. I would have thought there would have been enough, but clearly not. So we're going to need more aluminium because I want to make up an aluminium mesh so that we can start getting more advanced stuff from our sifting, especially diamonds, etc. There's been a few recipes where let's just get all these carrots where I'd need diamonds, and without diamonds we're kind of well, stuck. So we need to figure out how to get that EBF working at all. An obvious answer is just get MV tier turbines. We've got the methane being produced, and just use MV cabling, and that should work. Anybody interested? Baby zombies. Done. Yeah, that's one option. I'm not sure it's the best option. I'm pretty sure you should be able to run it off LV, so I'm not quite sure what's stopped it there. So again, if you have any suggestions as to how I can get that EBF working, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below. I think what we'll do is we'll end this episode here. We'll let our greenhouse produce its juicy carrots, skin on for best taste, and then I don't think that's working correctly, because that should use the organic fertilizer. Let me just check the recipe. Organic fertilizer dust, carrot gives me 3. in a fraction of the time. Let's take the carrot out, take the fertilizer out, put the fertilizer in first, put the carrot back in and see if that resets it. Yeah, so we'll let our carrots produce naturally over there. I've still got my field of carrots over here, which we can use to top up. I've got a nice stock of methane. We've already got 2 and a bit buckets worth of methane. We're obviously going to need a lot more if we're going to use that as a power source. But we're on the way. Once we've got the power supply situation sorted, we can start moving into the MV tier stuff. Now, I've set myself a bit of a challenge to do, and I'm still trying to work out the logistics of it. But I made a comment in one of my previous episodes about a quest here, gold. And it says, this is your first complex ore processing process. Start with gold dust in JEI, and then go down the line until you're at precious ore. And I was starting to work this out, and in my previous video I went, yeah, we'll do that later. Well, later is now. So once I've got the power situation sorted out, what I want to try and do, if possible, and it may not be possible, is to see if I can get some gold process done. Now, the reason I think it might not be possible is, where are you? I do chemical reactor. If I remember correctly, it's not the potassium meta stuff, meta bisulfate. That's just sulfur and potassium, and we can easily get that. We know how to get oxygen. Potassium, I've got rock salt I can just process. Sulfur, I have sulfur for that. No, if I remember correctly, it's the chloroauric acid. Where were we? Now, I think it was the gold leach dust, which required gold alloy ingots. Gold alloy ingots were a blast furnace of copper dust and we can do it. It requires MV tier, which my blast furnace is working at, if it were working. So if I can get the blast furnace working, I want to start getting gold production done using this quite complex process. Why? Because that's the whole point of these packs, especially Gregicality, is just trying to get that lovely end-to-end process done. So lots of chemicals, lots of stuff working in there, and we will get some gold at the end of it, and that will be worth it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, feel free to give it a like. If you'd like to see more episodes, then please feel free to subscribe. Until then, I wish you a very pleasant day. Goodbye.